Hello everyone, I'm Broughy1322 and in this video I'm going to be showing the fastest fully upgraded rear wheel drive vehicles around a circuit. If you want to know how all cars perform in a variety of different classes and formats, check the annotation on the screen or the link in the description for the full playlist of videos. If a rear wheel drive vehicle isn't in this list, then it's either too slow, can't be stored as a personal vehicle, or was released after this video was published and is featured in an update video, but of course feel free to subscribe for future updates. So in 10th place is the Carbonizare. The Carbonizare finally makes it into a list that's worthwhile. The 11th best sports car in the game, with a 1 minute 6.3, you know, it's not too bad, you know, obviously it's a rear wheel drive car, so you do tend to get a bit more oversteer with rear wheel drive cars, and that's something that you do need to be careful of. But otherwise, you know, the Carbonizare is very, very good in a straight line. It does lack a little bit of traction in the corners, but it's not too bad, our 10th best in the class. So in 9th, just ahead of it, is the Banshee. The Banshee isn't that great until you put the spoiler on it, giving it that extra bit of traction. So when it is fully upgraded, it does get a significant boost in lap time. That 1 minute 6.2 is only slightly better than what we've just seen from the Carbonizare. Obviously it's the 10th best sports car in the game, so it's just ahead of the Carbonizare there as well. But in terms of rear wheel drive cars, you know, it isn't the 9th best in the game. And rear wheel drive, there are a lot of rear wheel drive cars in the game, as I'll explain in a little bit. But in 8th place, just ahead of that, is the Comet. So the Comet does get a bit of lap time above the Banshee with a 1 minute 5.8. Not all that much different. Again, the same with all rear wheel drive cars, it's all about managing that oversteer. They are a lot of fun to drive, rear wheel drive cars, when you have to manage that oversteer. And that's what the characteristic of these kind of cars are. This is our 9th best sports car in the game, as we saw from the sports class video. If you want to check that out, it's in the description. But in 7th place is the Serrano. So the Serrano and the Comet have very similar styles in terms of the oversteer that they tend to get in the corners. But the Serrano has really good acceleration out of the corners as well, and that really gives it sort of that mid-drive acceleration that it has is what gives it its lap time. With a 1 minute 5.4, it is slightly better than the Comet, but all of these cars are very close together. So in 6th place for rear wheel drive cars, we have our first supercar, which is the Vaca. So the Vaca is only our 6th best supercar in the game, but it's also our 6th best rear wheel drive car in the game as well. With 1 minute 5.1, you know, it's another little bit of a chunk of lap time ahead of what we've just seen from the Serrano. A lot of fun to drive. I would say the Vaca is probably one of the more stable of the rear wheel drive cars in the entire game. You know, it's very nice to drive around the corners in terms of the stability that you have with it. It doesn't tend to suffer from oversteer like the others. So the top 5, and in 5th place for the rear wheel drive cars is the Cheetah, our 5th best supercar in the game. The Cheetah is very, very quick. Obviously we've seen a huge difference in lap time there between the Cheetah and the Vaca, with a 1 minute 4.1 from the Cheetah. It just lacks the overall power that some of the top supercars have, which is what would give them the lap time over this. But in terms of rear wheel drive cars, you know, it's very, very quick and very close to what we're about to see. So in 4th place, just ahead, is the Fautza. This is our 5th best sports car, and they're pretty much inseparable, the Fautza and the Cheetah. Obviously the Cheetah got a 1 minute 4.139, the Fautza gets a 1 minute 4.137. Incredible, you know, they both have very good traction, which is what gives them the lap time. The Fautza, especially in the sports class. So they are extremely close together, you know, it's very, very difficult to separate them, and that goes the same for the next two cars that we're about to see as well. In 3rd place is the Massacro, just ahead of the Fautza in the sports class and in the rear wheel drive class, with a 1 minute 4.1. It's, you know, pretty much exactly the same lap time as what we saw from the Fautza. You know, they're all of these, the top from 5th all the way to 2nd, they're pretty much inseparable, and it's going to be determined on driver preference which one you have in any given race. Obviously the Massacro does have an advantage when it comes to longer straight line tracks, because it does have very good top speed, whereas the Fautza is better in the corners. But they're pretty much inseparable on a lot of tracks, and it's just ultimately down to driver preference where you have. So the 2nd best rear wheel drive vehicle in the game is the Massacro race car. The 3rd best sports car in the game as well. Again, pretty much inseparable to what we've just seen. The Massacro race car only gets a tiny little bit of traction bonus above the regular Massacro, which gives it that 1 minute 4.0. the difference between the regular Massacro and the race car version is very minimal, and therefore the difference between this and the cars that we've just seen, the Cheetah and the Feltzer, is also very minimal as well. So it's all just about driver preference. Now the rear wheel drive class, before we come on to the top car, is easily the largest class in the game. Most of the cars in GTA are rear wheel drive, but the best of all of them, in first place, is the Turismo R. Easily the quickest, with a 1:02 lap time, 0.7. You know, it's easily the quickest by a long way in terms of the rear wheel drive cars. You know, that's 1.3 seconds quicker than the next best. It's you know, it's got so much power. Its engine power is very good. As long as you can handle the oversteer around the corners, then you should be fine with it. And it's a very fun car to drive as well, and it's obviously that's why a lot of people use it. It's very popular. So yeah, as I was saying, you know, the rear wheel drive cars are plentiful in GTA. Most cars in the game are rear wheel drive. So, you know, the vast majority of even the quickest cars in the game are all rear wheel drive. But ultimately, the quickest cars in the majority of classes that have all wheel drive vehicles are all wheel drive cars. You know, rear wheel drive cars, where there is an all-wheel drive vehicle and as an alternative, they don't tend to get the best in the class. So, you know, as we saw, the Massacro race car was the third best sports car in the game. The Turismo R is the third best supercar in the game, and that's because they do get beaten by their all-wheel drive counterparts. But we will come on to that in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I hope it's helped you out a little bit. Be sure to, you know, subscribe if you enjoyed, and leave all your comments down below. Let me know what you thought about this. And be sure to like the video as well if you enjoyed. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I really do appreciate your support as always, and I'll see you next time.